Revision Hub. Today we're going to be looking at the topic of memory, unit of factors affecting eyewitness testing. And the factor that we're going to be looking at today is anxiety, AQA AS psychology. So, as I mentioned, another factor affecting eyewitness testimony is anxiety. Affected anxiety can have negative impact on recall because anxiety creates physiological arousal in the body, resulting in being able to pay attention to important cues, which ultimately results in worse recall. Presence of weapons can have a negative effect on recall because they create anxiety. In 1976, Dodson and Scott got participants to believe that they were going to part in a lab study. While the participants were in the waiting room, they heard an argument in the next room. In the low anxiety condition, the man walked through the waiting room with a pen and grease on his hands. Some other participants heard a heated argument with the sound of glass breaking. This high anxiety condition had the man walk out of the room holding a paper knife covered in blood. Both groups were shown 50 photos and had to identify the man. It was found that 49% of the participants who had seen the man with the pen could identify him, whereas 33% of the participants were able to identify the man holding the bloody knife. Hence, the attention of the witnesses narrows to focus on the source of anxiety, in this case the weapon, and this was termed the tunnel theory of memory. Anxiety can also have an effect on memory. This is because stress caused by witnessing a crime or an accident results in anxiety, which causes physiological arousal in the body. The fight or flight response is activated, resulting in being alert, which improves your memory because you're more aware of the cues and situation. Uville and Cutshell in 1986 did a study on the real-life shooting that took place in a gun shop in Canada, where the shop owner shot the thief dead. After 21 witnesses, 13 agreed to participate in this study. Interviews were done 3-4 months after the incident, and those were compared with the original police interviews made at the time of the shooting. Accuracy is measured and the details reported in their accounts. The witnesses were also asked to rate how stressed they felt at the time of the incident on a 7-point scale. It was found that the witnesses were very accurate in the accounts, and there was only a little change in accuracy after 5 months, as some details were less accurate. For example, the color of certain items, maybe estimating the approximate age, height, etc. The participants who had said they were the most stressed were the most accurate, 88%, 77% for the less stressed participants. This is something to think about, and as we see in Yerkes and Dodson's inverted U theory, performance is not good with low and high levels of stress. A medium level of stress is needed to perform well. So on your x-axis you would have low stress, medium stress and high stress, and on your y-axis you would have performance. Another way to put this is that performance will increase with stress, but only to a certain point where it will decrease. So it's sort of like a bell-shaped curve, to be honest, and the highest level of performance is evident when you have a medium amount of stress. So some stress has to be present for you to perform well, but obviously when this goes to high level of stress, then performance does significantly decrease. Diffenbacher in 1983 reviewed 21 studies and applied Yerkes and Dodson's law to eyewitness testimony and found that low levels of anxiety resulted in low accurate recall. The accuracy of memory increases as the level of anxiety increases. When the optimum point of anxiety is reached, maximum accuracy is obtained. And if the eyewitness's experience is more stressful than this optimum, recall drastically decreases. Evaluating this U theory, hopefully you shouldn't really get an essay question. So at AS it will be a 12 marker, A2 or A level it will be a 16 marker. Hopefully you shouldn't really get a 16 marker on simply just the U theory. You may get one on how anxiety affects eyewitness testimony because you would have plenty to write, but in case you get a short answer question, for example 4 marks or even 2 marks, where you have to evaluate, give strength or a weakness or even both for the U theory, then you can probably use these points. So a strength of the U theory is that it has real world applications because it's not useful for eyewitness testimony, job interviews and exams, for example, because it emphasizes that an optimum level of stress is needed to perform well, but this is not the case with low and high levels of stress, thus increasing representativeness and generalizability. However, a weakness in U theory is too simplistic because anxiety is difficult to define and measure accurately. It has many components, for example, behavioral, cognitive, emotional, and physical components, ultimately decreasing validity. Okay, so now we're going to evaluate the effect of anxiety on eyewitness testimony. So a strength is that the Uville and Cutshell 1986 study has high mundane realism because artificial stimuli were not used as it was a real-life shooting in Canada, thus increasing the generalizability of the findings to shootings in the real world. However, a weakness is that the weapon focus effect may not be relevant because Johnson and Scott's 1976 study focused on testing surprise and not anxiety. This is because the participants might have focused more on being surprised to see it instead of fearful. Hence, the results obtained were a consequence of witnessing unusualness instead of anxiety or threat, reducing validity. Another weakness is that there's a lack of control over extraneous variables. In the Uville and Cutshell 1986 study, there was no control over the conversations that the witnesses had with each other at the event they saw in the media, for example, and these would have impacted their memory in some way, reducing internal validity. In our next video, we will be looking at the cognitive interview that takes place when an eyewitness testimony takes place. So before then, make sure you make your notes on what we've covered so far. Remember to revise, rest, test, and repeat yourself. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Thank you to Canva because I made these slides using their templates. Don't forget to like, comment, press on our revision hub. Thank you so much.